Seeing it's 7 o'clock, as chairman of this, I'd like to call the Shrewsbury Township Board of Supervisors February meeting to order. As always, we'll pledge our flag. We pledge allegiance to our flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bill, let's introduce ourselves. I'm David.
I'm Bill Cox.
Advisor.
Paul Solomon.
Art Rutledge. Jeff Reynolds.
And could you introduce the staff, Todd?
I'm President, Township Manager. This is Timothy Belton, Township Solicitor, and Wendy Brown, our Recording Secretary.
Thank you. Two announcements, standard announcements, I might add. This meeting is being videoed, as are all our meetings. It'll be on the website within a reasonable short period of time after this meeting. You have a right to record meetings that you must announce at the beginning of the meeting that you're doing so. And finally, we encourage you all to come up and use the microphone to address the board and give us your full name and address. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. You all have the minutes in your packet.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion. I have a couple of things here. On page 1 of 8, we approved the manager's contract subject to a review as to whether it had to meet the specific requirements of the ordinance which set up the township manager. That wasn't included in the minutes, but that's something we have to discuss. I guess now is a good time as any. Maybe more specific. The township ordinance, which is law, basically, which establishes the position of township manager, says that the severance pay should be no more than 30 days. In the contract, it says 3 months. So, what's the sense of this board? We can, since we approved it conditionally, we can make changes to it. We're also going to be approving a new manager's ordinance tonight. It was a rewrite of the old ordinance we had, and it has in there 30 days as well. Sure.
Aren't you just approving the minutes?
No, we're not disapproving the minutes. We're saying that there was a contingency at last month's meeting, and we can approve the minutes.
Or you want to amend the minutes as
I would
written?
like to amend the minutes and
Okay, I was
approve
just
them.
trying to figure out what was going on.
You did make that comment, that's correct.
We need to follow up on it one way or the other.
But this is just where you want to amend the minutes to note your comment, right?
Right. Well, we can do both. But if you just want to do that much of it now, but we're going to actually discuss the contract. I don't think it's on our agenda specifically, is it? Let's do both. You can get it out of the way with it.
I would respectfully suggest give me full truth, right? I try not to get too much into the parliamentary
That's your
side
job.
of things.
That's your job.
Right now, as Mr. Rutledge said, all you're trying to do is approve your minutes. If you want to talk substantively about the agreement, you probably should do that in old business or new
Okay.
business.
Thank you.
So I don't know, I wasn't here, of course, so I don't know if the minutes correctly capture the decision that the board made. Okay, that's what you need to figure out.
You made a good point, thank you. So right now, we're just going to add language to that paragraph, which indicates that we approve the contract subject to legal review. That's what was said at the last meeting. And it should be reflected in the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to do something.
Well, I'll make a motion to reflect that in the minutes because that comment was made.
Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So you're amending the minutes to reflect that the approval of the manager's agreement was contingent on,
Legal sufficiency regarding the contract. It conflicted with the ordinance.
okay,
The only thing in question was the severance portion of it.
That's all.
That's all in question.
All right. Any other comments on the minutes? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve them as amended.
Make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor? Vote aye.
Aye.
Passes. Treasurer's report. We have two treasurer's reports, one for December and one for January. We'll do the December one first.
Make a motion to approve December's.
We have motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 So done. Now the minutes for the last meeting, January of 2016.
Treasurer's report.
I'm sorry, treasurer's report.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Okay. And now on to item 5. We have public comment. There's also a public comment period at the end of our meeting. We'd like you to stay within 5 minutes if possible.
Hi, Team folks. My name is Russell Fuller. I reside at 3654 Bull Road. This is in regards to, I think your acronym is the Olds Sewage Disposal Program. Purchased this house in September of 2014. Actually moved in on October 3rd. And according to the schedule I got, they're requesting me to be repumped somewhere between 1/1/15 and 12/31/16, which means I've missed your porthole by 3 months. It was completely pumped. It was repaired by the prior owner. Everything was brought up to spec 100%, and I just think it's very pointless for me to have to spend $250 when I'm basically 3 months out of the window. I live there by myself, and that would be on play to you.
I'm sorry, do you have a date when it was previously pumped, repaired by the previous?
I purchased it, I
Did they
think
give you anything?
it was
Documentation?
September 3rd, I believe, was actually pumped.
But the former homeowner didn't pass on any documentation or anything like that?
As far as a definite,
Oh, it just, I
It
don't
was
know,
definitely
down
done.
to the last day, but I'm just wondering, you have the month and the year that it was.
yes, September 2014.
Does the township have information to that effect?
We usually get a receipt for that from the
We-
pumping company.
I don't have that because I didn't have it done.
Well, okay.
Keith was there, Paul.
Can you
Who's that guy?
look into that?
Who's that guy?
Is this all?
Speak on your behalf.
Yeah, I think it's
They're pretty close to, West Hampton motion, one way or the other, but I think it's pretty clear what the situation is. So, you just missed it by several months. And I understand that you was pumped last September, right? Your septic system was pumped last September.
Yes, sir.
September 14th.
in 2014.
Oh, 14, excuse me.
By your designation, I missed it by 3 months.
Well,
Why don't you just check on the paperwork?
No, it's this
And
year.
if it's 15, hold that then.
it's 2014, it's almost 2 years.
If we got
It's out of date 3 months. You want me to have pumped it in between 1/1 of 15, which is the beginning of last year.
I see, okay.
I'm out of 3 months.
If you'd like, we can, table this till next month, because we have plenty of time, and let us pull the records.
You're living there by yourself.
Yes,
You don't have big parties over there, like that, right? Okay, well,
I don't have excessive bowel
I'll make a
problems.
motion that we approve this request for a waiver, subject to township review of the last item is pump.
I'll second.
Call for the vote.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay, anybody else have anything to say more? Hey, have you been screened?
Susan Fox, 3624 Bowsville Road. At the January 4th, 2016 meeting, all 5 of you voted to approve the meeting minutes from the November 4th, 2015, with only one of the 3 amendments I had suggested. You all allowed all of Supervisor DeLeon's accusational and inaccurate statements to remain in the minutes and would not allow my 2 sentences to be added that clarified and disputed her false accusations. Supervisor DeLeon was upset because Manager Ziegler, her, and some others wanted to add words that were not said and omit others that were said to the August 2015 DOS meeting. Actual depiction and not certain aspects of what transpires at a meeting is critical and should be in the minutes each month. Supervisor DeLeon went on to state that Earl Shuckman cost the township $4,500 in attorney's fees when in fact the slanderous, libelous, and defaming statements of Supervisor DeLeon against Mr. Shuckman at a township meeting is what that cost the taxpayers of the township her expense. Her actions, not the actions of someone else. Also, the appeal filed by myself and Mr. Van Voorst against the township for denying our subdivision plan is what the taxpayers supposedly spent $2,000 on. My comment was that her harassment of us is what caused this expense. Then Supervisor DeLeon continued on to make more accusations and misstatements about Mr. Shuckman's attorney having a memo that Attorney Buck sent. Rest assured that no one I know, nor myself, ever gave to Attorney Solomos, Attorney Buck's memo, and if anybody wants to continue to make such accusations and untrue statements, they should be prepared to show actual proof of such because it didn't happen. Did Attorney Solomos know what the township was going to do? Probably. He's only been practicing municipal law for well over 30 years. I hope that this new board will make sure that the minutes are transcribed accurately and fairly during their term. It's your duty as an elected official. I made copies of this statement for each of you and the secretary so you'll have the actual words that were said for your minutes of 2016. Thanks.
Thanks, Sue.
Thanks.
If you don't mind, I want to turn around so I don't go back to the audience. Is that all right? I'll go back to you. I think I need to.
No worries.
All right.
You want to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah.
We won't sneak up on her. She's armed.
Both sides. My name is Nicole Palmer. I'm the new station commander at York Barracks in Loganville. I started in June. We're assigned, we're supposed to go to township meetings. They only require us to go 1 a year, but I'm changing the rules for us. I think I'd like to have our guys attend at least 2 a year, so that way maybe once in the beginning of the first 6 months and then the second half, so we can get your feedback. I have 22 townships I cover, so obviously I can't come to all the meetings, so I assigned everyone. You guys are my township, so you will be seeing my ugly mug. I will periodically try to come, not more than the 2 times a year, but like I said, I have other meetings to go to and other task force and stuff that I have on, and they all meet at night. I mean, that's my time to go to the gym. But anyway, all right, so this is my report. What I did was I looked at our stats from 2015 and 2014 and compared them. You have Interstate 83 going through your area, so I'm not going to give you our DUIs, but I will give you our citations. In 2015, we wrote 1,155 citations, 475 warnings. I didn't pull all of the 2014 because it's kind of time consuming, but I did go into our criminal things that we responded to and what really affects the residents of the township. Our burglaries for 2015, we only had 17 total, which is, I think, pretty impressive for a township your size. I mean, I shouldn't say impressive, but that's low, and I'm happy with that. 11 of those 17 were residential, which means they actually broke into someone's house. In 2014, they had a total of 21 burglaries, 14 of them being residential. So they went down in both the total and the residential went down as well. Ironically, there were 23 suspicious person calls both years. Suspicious person to me is good because it sounds that we get the calls for it because it means that you guys are paying attention to what's going on in your neighborhood and you're calling us, and that's what we want to hear. And that's probably what prevents your burglaries. Now your theft totals are not so good. Thefts, we lumped them all together as far as like breaking into cars, say stealing a bicycle off your porch or something, you know, someone stealing your wallet. We had a total of 135, and out of that 135 for 2015, 38 were retail thefts. So if someone stole from the Rudders or you know, a store. 2014 they had 90 and 28 retails were in that one. So the thefts have gone up. So the residents should probably, you know, just pay more attention to your property. It's a shame that you have to. It's your property. People shouldn't come on, but if you want to protect yourself, make sure your car doors are locked and you know, your purses aren't laying on the kitchen table. Well, that would be a burglar anyway, but you just don't leave your stuff laying around. Our total calls for the township, for 2015 we had 2,556, and for 2014 we had 2,379. So calls have increased. And that goes from anything. And I didn't report the assaults and things that are non-preventable. I mean, we can't tell you if someone's going to get a domestic. It's not our fault. You know, the township can't help that either with relationships. So that's basically our stats I think would reflect to you. One thing we do that a lot of people don't realize, if you have a situation, like let's say you're going on vacation for 2 weeks, you want your house checked. You could call up and say, hey, I'm leaving May 15th and I'll be back June 15th. And we make a zone book. We have a zone book for each township, and we'll make an incident number up. And the trooper assigned to that zone is supposed to go check those. So that way we know you're away. We'll check it. You can tell us what kind of car should be in the driveway. You know, if you have a motion light or a light on a timer that's going to turn on. So that's something that's good for the residents to know.
And what's the number that folks call for that?
717-428-1011. And you just say, I would like a property check while I'm going to be away. The other thing is speeding violations. Let's say you have a violet, you think people are speeding on your street. You can call it in. We could, again, make a zone check. Now, it has to be properly posted, so that's one thing that brings the trooper out, that they can look at the thing, see if it is properly posted. And then we'll sit there, and, you know, our eyes aren't certified. Ours are a little more used to what we can tell a speed is, but, you know, you might think someone's speeding, and we'll sit there for 10 times, and, yeah, maybe they're going 5 miles over the speed limit, which you know, legally we can't cite. We have to do 6 miles over the speed limit, so, you know, gives up. But even so, sometimes if we have someone who's willing to let us sit in their driveway, and we'll sit there and we'll watch, you know, traffic, we'll do paperwork, at least it slows them down, so it gets the presence out there. So if you have an issue, just, you know, again, call that same number, 428-1011. Does anyone have any questions for me? I held in my coffin the whole time I was talking. That's pretty good.
Okay with that number being published in the township newsletter?
Yeah, that's our communication desk.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's the non-emergency number. Obviously, if you're in a crash or something, or you know, someone's breaking into your house and you're in there, call 911. But our number is.
How would you handle that with a private street? We do have some private streets and communities, meaning the community is responsible for the street.
Well, it has to be properly posted by PennDOT regulations, so we can't do traffic enforcement on it. But we could sit out there, like I said.
But as far as the vacation checks and things
Oh,
like
yeah,
that? we do.
yeah, definitely. Because we still respond to them, like if that got broken into,
Right.
who would respond to us? So. And that's the thing that people don't understand. We'd like to check your property, because that way it's less paperwork for us to, you know, walk up, stretch our legs, check your doors, make sure, you know, windows aren't broken. So, you know, we work together.
Good.
It's good to know.
Well, thank you for coming in. Also, I want to, on behalf of the whole board, Thank you and your associates up in Loganville for the excellent work you do for our township.
We have a great station. They're really young, so bear with them, but, you know, we try to train them well. And I have to say, I worked in Lancaster County most of my career. It's just totally different atmosphere over here. Nothing wrong with Lancaster County, but the communities around
Are you
here.
reminded that you're old?
I am old, 5 more years to retirement.
Okay, well, thanks again. Any questions? Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having
Thank you.
us.
Certainly. Item number 6.
Thank you for all your efforts.
I'm not going to go home.
No, no, she's back here.
Hello, my name is Ben Burrows. I'm at 1880 Spruce Road. Just want to give you guys updates about the farmers market. We'd like the farmers market to go forward this year. We have a little committee we put together. I have a list of the committee with me. I'd like to hand to you guys so you have contact with all the members on the committee. And also there is a blank, so if anybody in the community would like to join the farmers market community, we're open, or any township supervisors. A little update, we're going to change the farmers market from Saturday to Sunday afternoon, so we're not competing with New Freedom and Hereford's. And it gives options for more vendors to come in. I did have communications today with the Chesapeake Realtor that we manage that property. They gave us the approval to change it to Saturday. I just didn't print out the contract. Sunday. I didn't print out the contract with me today, but I can email it to Todd tomorrow. So I just need approval from the board just to push this farmers market forward.
In regard to number 1, in regard to the change in time,
Yes, changing the time and also the contract agreement,
okay.
that you guys will approve the third-party contract agreement. There is some things I'm still learning, so I'm not 100%, great on the insurance, but that's something I imagine Todd and I will work with.
I haven't seen the contract yet, so I don't know if this is exactly the same or.
It's the same thing.
It's exactly the same, it's just the day has changed and the time has changed, but everything else remains the same.
Can we approve this next month after we see all the information? But don't tell us, if you need it now.
No.
We would like it now because a lot of my vendors are signing up for farmers markets. So as soon as I can get all these, agreements in and also the contracts back, we can make this farmers market grow.
Any problems with that, Tom?
I mean, if you want to approve the contract, it can contingent upon, review to make sure no changes. But,
Okay.
You'll have to change the
Other than the
vendor
date.
agreement too. Todd will have to change the vendor agreement for Ben to reflect 2016 and give him a new copy of that.
Okay, well,
But that's not what you're approving tonight.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the change in days, and we approve the, you have an agreement with the township, subject to Todd reviewing all this and indicating to us that everything's in order.
Just questions, it's just a legal
Yeah.
document.
Todd instantaneously, automatically refers documents to Attorney Bo.
So there's no change.
Good point, thanks, Dan. Anything else?
No, that's about it.
We need a second,
I'll second.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We want you to be successful,
Yes.
so if you can help by doing all this, we certainly will. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Folks, was that vote unanimous?
I think
They voted no, did they?
it's a very quiet.
I didn't hear everyone, so.
Thank you.
Right, no, anybody else wants to address the board? Item number 6A, manager ordinance amendments. You have that in front of you. We've already gone over that and made changes. Todd finalized it, and it's before us for in action. Ordinance number 216-01. Any comments from anybody on the board? Todd, you going to say? Just go right. Okay with this? Since you made the change, I thought, you got the
No, I didn't make the change.
I know, I just realized that. You put it together for us, so thank you for that.
I formatted it for you.
Yes, thank you, yeah. All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Can I just make one comment? The only thing that concerned me a bit as I read this was on page 1508, and I will concede that this was the same that we looked at last time. But just the first paragraph that says neither the board of supervisors nor its members nor the supervisors committees and members, blah, 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 shall give orders publicly or privately to the subordinate of the manager. And while I get we don't want 17 people micromanaging the office, it seems to me that, I don't know what we can do with the wording, but it seems like if I walk into the office and ask Wendy to do something small for me, that could be construed as my giving her orders, which is problematic.
Well, this refers to mostly complaints, in fact, all calls. You order all.
Yeah,
You're down here.
you know, we've had many board members that have come in and made small requests, and we've done that. It's never been an issue. It mainly has to do if a board member were to come in and say, I want you to research X, Y, Z, that's going to take 4 hours. It's that type of situation, or with the road crew. If you have one board member goes and tells the road crew, you know, I want you to go down and do something on road A, and then another board member comes in tomorrow and says, well, no, I want you down on road C. That's the purpose of that statement.
Like I said, I understand the intent and that you don't want 12 people micromanaging and all of that, but it just seems like it can be construed a number of ways, so.
That's my worry about changing it, though. I believe in a firm chain of command. I think we can give direction through Todd. Todd or Mike McLean.
Yeah. You okay?
Sure.
That was very.
I'm not sure I have a precise and improved way of doing it. So,
All right. And that, plus the fact that I have an issue, just go ahead and, now this has been advertised.
It has been duly
It's
advertised.
ready to be enacted.
It is.
Is there a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next item is outdoor burning ordinance amendments. We've got some very good suggestions from Keith Hunnings and from Tony Myers, who's fire chief in Shrewsbury Borough, and they're incorporated in this, in these amendments. I would do wheels.
The only thing I wondered is, when you bring the time back to 7 o'clock, is it any impact on recreational users? If you've got people who might be sleigh riding in the meadow or...
bonfire or something, yeah.
I mean, I guess they could get around that by making sure it's enclosed.
What are you suggesting?
In, where we're changing the burn time from 10 p.m. and moving it back to 7 p.m. or sunset. Would that impact unduly people who may have a recreational use in the winter, ice skating, sleighing? That's just a question.
No, I
Well,
agree.
this is
I thought
primarily, for discussing from what I gather, is controlled burns, and which you're calling in to indicate that you've started it. And I say it needs to be at sunset because wintertime, it's dark long before 7. Summertime, it's dark long after 7.
You make a good point, Jeff. Any further
What do you
discussion?
think about recreational? Recreational, if it's being recreational, it should be in a burn contain, it should be in a container. In other words, if we, like my kids every now and then, they'll decide to have a campfire. We've got a ring, it's contained it. It's not burning in an open fire. It's a totally different situation. The reason for the burn permit is for more so is for the controlled fires, you know, the 5-foot fires that you throw in burning brush and everything else.
Right.
that's why, you know, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, if you contain the fire, you could do the recreational.
Yes, and, you know, and if you're doing a recreational fire, you aren't gonna have a 5-foot diameter pile, you're gonna have a few pieces of wood on a fire type thing. That's my 2 cents.
Todd, what do you think?
The only thing I'll just pass along, and I think it was in Tony's email, his concern was that they get occasional calls when someone's burning, like Jeff had mentioned, a large, 5-foot diameter fire, and someone sees that as flames off in the horizon and they call 911, ends up being a controlled burn. I think that's the only reason he was looking to shorten that time from
Well, sunset, you know.
Yeah,
But how does that happen if you've called it in like you're supposed to?
I agree.
well, yeah, well,
They still get the calls, no?
yeah. Well,
I mean, that's not, they're not gonna want to just.
Yeah, but see, the thing is,
but the thing
if
is,
you have to have the fire out by sunset, you're not gonna start it at 5 o'clock either if sunset's at 7. You shouldn't anyhow.
one thing though, and to keep in mind is, you may have called it in, have your permit and everything, but if I'm driving down the road and I see the fire and I say, it's up off of such and such a road, the fire department, or 911, I don't think is going to say, oh, that must be.
Right.
They're going to send them out to investigate. Because the caller may not have an exact address.
I guess I'm just making the assumption that they would have the road, you know. I'm driving down Potosi Road, I see a burning fire there, you know, and I'm gonna call it in.
People do
It's
that.
possible that 4 streets over, I could say, oh my goodness.
When I lived along the rail trail, I had a small fire, and I was in my yard, and a passerby called 911. So people do strange things. Yeah.
What do you think, Nick? Where do you want to leave this?
I think the fact they can have the fire in a container probably serves the purpose for recreational use.
Any other thought?
So I
Are we construing like a stone ring as a container?
I would.
I would.
It says it up there, what it is.
specific.
Non-flammable barrel, drum, or other similar container, or outdoor grill or box.
Okay. I have a comment. And, there are a small number of people or residents that have a burn drill. And they burn everything in that burn drill, plastics, and it smolders for extended periods of time. It creates a problem for their neighbors. Some communities ban burn drills altogether. Others require a permit. I'm just throwing that out for anybody's.
Well, we do, as far as burning plastics and
I know we tell people they can't do it, it's illegal, but
Yeah, I mean, what I want to say is that's covered under another article, that wouldn't be covered under this. That's already.
No, I understand.
Yeah. And if we know those addresses, we can let Keith know and he can.
and this is only enforced on an as-needed basis, we don't go out and look for problems, but if somebody that does a lot of burning in a burn drill, they should get a permit, like a burn permit, for just for that purpose. And they get the rules, here's what you can burn, and just can't burn. So I'm just throwing that out,
I think if we're gonna do that, then we need to change the first part of that. Because it says non-flammable barrel, drum, or other similar container. To my mind, a block or brick ring or something like that is not that type of container.
We could change it to enclosure instead of,
Yeah,
Container.
something along those lines, so that, you know, if you have a home fire pit, if you will, that's included and doesn't come into question.
there are residents, especially sometimes, people who want a big piece of land or farm, and they just dig a big pit, 12 by 20, and they just keep throwing stuff in there, and then that's an enclosure, isn't it? So they don't need a permit, but they burn it every so often, if that's big. Anybody want to, what are you suggesting, anything?
Well, I would like to change the wording there for one thing. Are you asking me what I would want to do as far as time?
let's see where I'm looking
I'm not sure what the question is, I'm sorry.
at. I mean, you're referring to, when you say we've already, what are you referring to?
Up there, it says above A, it says outdoor fire other than those fully contained.
Yes.
And non-flammable. So I'd just like to add a little more temporary up there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. How do we do that? We want to enact,
Fire pit or.
this has to be advertised,
Yeah. I think that's.
once we get it in final form. And, you're saying,
I don't know, somewhere in there, maybe put or fire pit or
I say if you want,
lock
Paul,
structure. I don't
knowing
know.
what you're looking for, I can work up some language and email to everyone. And
yeah, there's a gentleman in the back.
Yeah, Paul, how does that pertain to people like, you know, you've had trees cut down and we want to burn those trees off, you know, the branches and everything else, how does that pertain? We have, like, I have a burn permit, you know, and,
If you have a burn permit,
yeah,
as long as you follow the rules,
yeah. I mean, because it's more than like 5 feet across, it's like 10 feet across or 15 feet across, the amount of lumber
what?
and
he's been on the
branches.
board, get him up here to this microphone.
Oh, that's right. He lives by his own rules.
I always
His name is Gene Montanarelli.
What's your address, Mr.
Yeah.
Montana?
1212 Kratz Road.
I'm pretty relaxed tonight.
Yeah.
You would come anyways. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just with what the supervisor said, I know on my property, a lot of times I'll either have a scouting, either Cub Scout, Boy Scout, or a youth group, and I get a burn permit every year from the township, but I have about a 6-foot concrete block, one high concrete block pit, but that really doesn't fit into this.
Yeah.
You know, they do it at night, so I'm just worried about if I'm doing that, it's not, you know, a lot of times it's after 7 at night, because they'll wait till it gets dark, because we're doing hot s'mores or whatever, and stuff around there, so exactly what you said, Ms. Biden, about putting some language in there, maybe about it's contained, safe, you know, water available, I don't know, something like that.
All right, well, so you were gonna try to develop some language?
Yeah, that paragraph, I'll make some changes, I'll email out to the board.
And this is part of an ordinance,
Yes.
so it hasn't been advertised for us.
No,
We'll go over it again next month,
that's up to
Is
the
that all right?
board.
then we can advertise it.
Well, once we agree to something, then we'll
That's what I'm
advertise.
saying, let's wait a month and see if we agree to it next month.
Do you want to discuss the time at all? Do you want to leave that in the other language as well?
Well, right now, someone says, this is
We have
7.
7, sunset, and 10 o'clock. We have
Okay.
3 options at this point. on the table.
We don't do that, so we can't make that.
Yeah, or you said sunset.
That was Jeff's recommendation.
I like sticking to the 10 personally. I agree with things like, you know, activities for the kids. There are a lot of teams that will do bonfires at someone's home after a game or something like that. If you limit that, I think that's going to be problematic.
They should be in bed at 10 o'clock. In the old days, it was that way.
High school.
We weren't there in the days. We still like 10 o'clock.
I went to 10 o'clock.
Well, I'm with 10 o'clock, I just didn't like 7 o'clock.
I think it was up closer for 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, okay.
all right, 10 o'clock.
Is everyone okay with everything else that they recommended? All the others?
So, in regard to,
Do we want to specify in 7-103 where it lists the barrel, drum, or other similar container? Maybe we strike other similar container. We can add block or stone pit or other similar enclosure. I think they cover it.
including earthen pit, sometimes they dig down about 5 feet.
Fire ring?
Yeah.
All right, that's good. All right.
Similar covers it. It sounded like it had to be in an actual container.
Okay, Mr. Vaughn, you okay with that, Todd? Did you got enough information?
Yeah.
706.
No comments. So,
Same, yeah, just to continue with the same language there.
okay. Got that, Todd?
71061?
Yeah,
Yes.
in one, they,
Well, now keep in mind what this section is. This is regarding
This is-
burn bans.
Okay.
And this is what Tony, the fire chief, was recommending. In addition to just the larger open burners, if someone's burning in a barrel, the trash like Paul was talking about, the embers, could sort of.
They just smolder, something they smolder for hours. They just keep smoldering.
So that 7106 refers to burn bans.
Okay. Whatever. Okay.
I mean, during the bans, I think we gotta secure those fire out, no doubt.
Okay. We all must be this to death. Item number 7, we're going to move on. E squared, this is subdivision land development. E squared, we'll discuss that first. It's due to the planning commission. Rod, you want to fill us in?
Yeah, here we go. I don't see Jason Brown. He had another meeting, so he wasn't sure he would make it here or not. E squared is a plan that's been around. It's adjacent to Glenrock Borough. As you can see, this is the entire tract here. And this is what they're proposing to subdivide. It's 14 lots. This plan's been on the books since 2006. And it's been sitting in staff for 4+ years. The main thing he needs is development rights. There's a couple of items there outlined in a review letter of November 1, 2013. Most of those are administrative items. The only major thing is the development rights would need to be purchased.
This is sat around not because of staff, because of the developer having a need to buy additional development rights.
Well, we moved it out of staff because technically the plan is complete, with the exception of those administrative items, many of those which are not done until the end of the plan process. So like I said, the major issue he has is the purchase development rights, and that's not an item that would hold it up in planning or staff.
I have a question.
Yes.
This plan came in 2006, it's partial according to the plat we have in our packet, is zoned agriculture.
Yes, that's correct. And this is, remember, this falls under the old zoning
Yeah, I know
ordinance.
that.
Yeah.
But the old zone, there's 14 rights. Where did they get 14 lots? That's why a simple answer was.
I have not reviewed the ordinance, but I know Jeff and Keith have, and it was permitted under there was an update done in 2010. So this was the prior zoning ordinance, and as you know, we did want to get last year. So, I can pull that and share that with you, but I know it's been reviewed by,
2006, and there's less than 60 acres here, isn't there, on this side?
yeah.
So that, according to our sliding scale, they're entitled to 4 lots. And
Under the current ordinance?
under that ordinance, the sliding scale hasn't changed. 0 to 5, 1, 5, 15, 2, 15, 33, 36.
Wasn't this the receiving area?
Yeah, that's what it was. It
It's
was the
originally
overlay-
33 units, Paul.
it was the overlay receiving area.
Right.
Remember
So
when they
it was
wanted to
zoned
build
ag,
houses down the side of the hill?
It would have been zone ag, but it had the overlay of receiving area. And I'm not associated with the plan at all, either. Just know the history.
And so they could have these number of lots on the sides, in our factory either.
Remember one time they were trying to even do more and they couldn't because of the
It's too
land.
steep. Yeah, I couldn't sleep at night.
Well, you reviewed this all before and everything, it's not,
Okay, well, as long as our staff agrees with it, and Art and I were at the meeting, everything went to be smoothly. So, let's go ahead and approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve with one condition. Maybe I'll make them get all loose ends tied up within 6 months because this plan has been around for 10 years.
Okay. With that condition, I'll entertain a motion to approve. You're looking for approval
Correct.
on this plan.
The motion was to approve it, but the contingency is, but at the same time, to complete all the things on the outstanding the issues in 6 months so that it can be ready for recording instead of us approving it, 3 months goes by, they don't get it, everything met, and we got to issue another extension.
Right. Well, you want to make the motion with that contingency in it, and we'll, in a second, and move on.
I just made it.
Okay, sorry.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 On the next page, item B, Keith Code Plan. Oh, you want to do a status report then?
Yeah, this is Keith Code Plan 3. We have 2 items to consider tonight, waiver requests as well as approval of the final subdivision plan. The waivers request as well as the plan have been through staff, they've been before Township Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission made a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that the waivers be granted and that the plan be approved on the condition of C.S. Davidson's outstanding item letter dated December 28, 2015.
I'll make a motion to approve Keith Code Plan 3, subject to the conditions and so forth attached by staff and the planning commission.
May I ask a question first?
Sure.
Under 507.2, the access, so it says driveway access will be on Hastings Way, and you're requesting that this be considered a private street? So plowing, road maintenance, all that stuff will be handled privately?
Yes, by the property owners.
And there was a reason why I was done that, but.
Yeah, there's no room for a cul-de-sac.
That's all right. That's not what I could do. Okay.
Question of clarification. We should approve the waivers either in addition to, or we should approve them separately and first. You had mentioned, you made a motion to approve the plan. Do you want to include the waivers as well?
You're trying to mess it up. I make a motion we approve the plan along with all the waivers and any other conditions as suggested by the staff and by the planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 And finally, the third of our subdivisions for consideration is Midsummer Manor. This is gone to staff, it's gone to planning commission, and it's been approved, subject to waiver request.
Yeah, and again, this is adjacent to Windy Hill Park. This is Windy Hill Road, and it parks over in this area. And it's a 5-lot subdivision. This parcel here would be dedicated to the township as an addition to Windy Hill Park. And again, as Paul mentioned, waiver requests have gone through staff, planning commission, as well as the plan, and the planning commission recommends approval of both.
I'd like to thank the developer for donating the acres he did to the township's park. We really appreciate that. And all,
Which is that?
it's about 3 or 4 acres. What is it?
Curious, I was just.
More, it's about a little over 1.5.
1.5 acres.
Oh, okay.
1.5 acres.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The other thing was, it may be that Elm Drive will be extended up to Windy Hill Road, and that could serve as an access point, a connection point for that road. So that's also something. If we don't do that, it'll become part of the park. Okay, I guess we're ready to vote. All right, ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the waivers associated with the plan contingent upon the things that were identified in the letter.
All in one package. I'll second that motion.
Vote aye.
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 I have one other item, if I could, under this that came up here. Jeff, our Our engineer, Jeff Shue, was hoping to get this in sooner, but I didn't get it till this afternoon. It's a request for a bond reduction for Messina Highlands. The original bond was in the amount of, total here, $1,800,634. The engineers reviewed their request for a reduction. Their initial request was a little less than $5,000 that they were asking to have retained on the bond. But our engineer is not comfortable with that. There's a couple things they need to check. So our engineer is recommending the approval to reduce that bond from the $1.8 million to $105,860.70.
Are you satisfied with that request?
Yes.
Want to entertain a motion to that effect?
We're reducing it from?
From $1,800,634 to $105,860.70. And this is a bond that they posted for all the public improvements, stormwater, the paving, landscaping.
As they make improvements, we reduce the bond. As you figure.
I was just making sure we weren't reducing it by 105,000, that we were reducing it to
Two.
Right. That's a
105,000.
good point. That's just, all right. With that, any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's see here. Reports. Manager.
Okay, I have a few things, but I'll try to speed it up. Just to update you here on this Armstrong cable. I've been playing phone tag with them, and actually I wasn't getting a response for quite a while. I finally got a call. Now we've been playing phone tag. One is to try to get service to Caprice Court and Elm Drive, and also our franchise agreement expires December of this year. So I've been calling more frequently, but I'm still not getting any return calls. I did, just for the sake of exploring, I did call Comcast to see if they're interested and if it's even feasible for them to even think about serving that area. Because our current contract with Comcast does not have any geographic limits, so they would be able to expand in that area. So they're going to do some checking and get back to me. Hopefully I'll have something for next month on that.
Thank you.
The Baron Matthews subdivision plan over on Constitution Avenue. Shrewsbury Borough is owed $200 and some, I believe, somewhere around $3. I talked to Phil. He's going to see that that gets taken care of. And as soon as that is, we'll have the sewer planning module released so we can hopefully bring this to a close. Just a reminder, the PSATS conference, if anyone's interested in going, if you can get your registration to me by February 12th, and I can get you registered. Something just to think about, YSM Landscape Architects, if you remember, we approved to move forward with updating our master plan at Miller Park. They have the base map prepared, so we need to think about a committee. We don't need to do anything at tonight's meeting, but if you can think about a couple of folks, it can be 1 or 2 board members, some staff. I was thinking Andy Bobby would probably be a good one since he does the scheduling, and maybe 1 or 2 residents at large. So give some thought for that for next month. If the snow melts completely, just an FYI, on February 18th, we have York County Prison Labor coming out. They usually come out once or twice a year to clean up the exit 4 interchange. And the only other thing, just to...
That's the Shrewsbury one, Tom?
Yes.
Not the Glen Rock one.
Correct. Just to give you a heads up, the York County Emergency Services, they're collecting data on what it costs for all the municipalities for the snowstorm a week and a half ago. I don't remember what the threshold numbers are, but if York County meets it and Pennsylvania as a whole meets it, we may be eligible for some FEMA funding.
You want
Just,
us to adopt resolution, you know, you sent to us?
well, that'll be the next thing, just to formally approve the declaration of disaster emergency. But I just want to give you an idea, since the storm began, the township spent $13,800 in labor just on snow. $10,100 of that was overtime, of course, you know, over the weekend. We spent, based on Mike's estimate for tonnage, just a little over $15,000 in salt. And if the FEMA funding comes through, I anticipate that we'll probably get back around $22,000 out of the $28,000 that we spent. So hopefully we meet those thresholds. And then the last item I have, as I had mentioned earlier, to be eligible, you need to formally act on this declaration of disaster emergency. So I just need a motion for that to happen.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Five ayes. That's the extended report.
Other thing is, personnel manual, there's a couple of amendments that need to be made. I did put those in your packet. Not asking for any action tonight or necessarily any discussion. I did at my request talk to Art, because I know he has some background in that, and he and I went through it. He actually went through it to an extent. And he met with me, and between the two of us, what you see in that memo is what we came up with, proposed changes. So, yeah, I was thinking to put that back on the agenda for next month, give you guys an opportunity to think about it. And the only other thing I want to mention is our January video is not up online. I don't know what happened, but we had the first 7 minutes and it went dead. So I am putting the audio online, so if anyone's, they can at least listen to what took place. And that should be up tomorrow, provided my computer's backed up. It crashed today, so. But that's all I have.
You had something in here about hiring a consultant to do pruning and other work on.
Yeah, that's later in the agenda.
Not part of your report. You have the highlight of the year, of course, every year is the how many dogs and cats that are picked up in our township. Wayward dogs and cats. And did you go over that? I mean,
Sure. I think that's just for the quarter, though.
Well, yeah, but yes, for the quarter, there was 3 dogs picked up, and for the quarter, and we're spending almost $3,000 a year.
Well, it was looks like one dog.
1 stray dog and 2 dogs by the owner. I spent a lot of time on this dog.
I think there's domestic short hair. Aren't those cats?
No.
I thought they referred to those as cats.
You want the,
Who knows? Domestic short hair cats? Yeah. DSH, domestic short hair, is a cat. So it was 2 cats and 1 dog.
we got that straight.
Last quarter, yes.
Now,
And then as of December 31st, Animal Rescue had 230 cats and 61 dogs.
yeah, they're limited to how many pets they can have in their facility.
There is under a zoning hearing board decision that was made, yes.
Yeah. So this is how many they have there
Yeah.
at the end, as of June 28th. Now it's December 31st, 2016. Maybe 2015, don't they? I don't know. 230 cats, 61 dogs. I'm concerned about how much money we're spending. If you say we got 2 cats and 1 dog, at the end of the last quarter, last 3 months, and you extend that over the whole year, that's like $300 per cat or dog approximately.
Doesn't that contract call for them to do a number of other things, like vaccination clinics and a whole list of things?
It mentioned education.
Yeah, they do that, but even, it's a discounted program, it's not free.
Okay.
But the problem is, and I can tell you every other municipality in York County struggles with this, is there's even municipalities that have animal control officers, they'll go out and they'll collect the animals, but they still need somewhere to take them. And there's really no place in York County, Tim, you may be familiar with that, some of your municipalities, but it's just, I don't know what the answer is, because they're about the only ones in town that'll take them.
Well, I'll make this into a long,
Yeah.
since you had long.
But I can tell you that most municipalities in York County feel the same way as you do.
Well, at the last meeting, we had a little bit different group here. I want to take a vote here tonight again, having failed the first time. We had we learned that there was a property, a home, residence in Forest Lakes where there was a state official identified 40 feral cats in and around that home. And it was a real problem for the citizens there. And I asked this group of citizens that were here, we need feedback. I said, how many of you would like to, how many of you would like to live near a home that had 40-some feral cats? And nobody was seemed to be concerned about it. I was dumbfounded. I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. I walked the floors. I mean, I'm going to ask the same question. If you had a neighbor that had 41 feral cats, and these are cats that are wild, they're infected with various germs and sicknesses and so forth. They kill songbirds and other native wildlife. With that as a backdrop, how many of you would be concerned if you had a neighbor that had 41 feral cats? Bless you. There's hope. All is not lost. You know? But still, we didn't get it was still a minority, but it's an improvement. That's what
Your
we want.
question was phrased a little bit.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, but that on agenda.
I'm not thinking up again. Okay, management board, okay, sanitary store, Todd, do you have that?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add other than what's in our report.
We have a copy in our packet about what's going on there. Our solicitor has a brief statement regarding
After the sewer report comes the solicitor's report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you again for the coming year. I provide legal service on a routine basis to the township. I work pretty closely with your manager. As he calls me, I provide him with information. I always believe that to fulfill my role correctly, I should be seen and not heard. If I'm doing my job correctly, I've contacted Mr. Solomon before the meeting, and he's as prepared as possible, and so is Todd, for the legal issues that come up. But if you have questions for me, then you can call on me at any time. I try to provide a written report when I can. You have one for me tonight, it's very brief. There's one item one, which is the result of a question that I was asked to provide feedback on, and that's the issue related to the manager's agreement and the manager's ordinance. The question that I was asked was, given that the township manager ordinance that we adopted calls out for 1 month of severance to the manager upon termination, however, the agreement that you conditionally approved calls out for 3, which one of those 2 controls? And I've expressed my opinion in writing here, but I'll give it to you verbally. I believe that the agreement in that case controls. Under Pennsylvania law and the code, the supervisors clearly have the authority to enter into an agreement with the township manager and specifically to provide what kind of severance they want to give him. I assume that's what you did in the agreement. The terms are in the agreement. It can differ from what you see in the ordinance. The ordinance provides a floor, but that's a floor that you can exceed, in my opinion. So I hope that helps you with the condition that you were talking about in the minutes. In my opinion, the agreement that you adopted passes legal muster. It's approvable the way it is. It's up to you whether you feel that you need to revisit that agreement based upon that.
You mind me asking questions?
Of course.
The management ordinance is law. It's a statute, basically.
And
All
so,
they call it an ordinance as far as concerned. Seems to me, with all due respect to you, that any agreement has to be consistent with that law. Otherwise, what's the sense of having an ordinance?
are you asking me a question?
Yeah.
Well, if the question is, wouldn't the
Ordinance. take
ordinance
precedence.
control? And again, in my opinion, the ordinance creates a floor, but you as a board have the authority to exceed that if you so desire contractually. After you and I talked today, I found a section in the second-class township code, which says that an employment agreement entered into may specify conditions under which the township manager would be entitled to severance compensation. So you certainly have the authority to set what compensation you think is appropriate.
I understand, and thank you. Sometimes we ask questions but not asked maliciously.
I understand, I try to help as I can, and keep my mouth shut when I...
Sure, smart. Sees the lawyer. Okay, now we have other reports.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Do you have contact information? I don't know if Barbara has that. I know I don't have any contact information if I'm going to ask you a question. Can you provide that?
I'm happy to provide it to you. I'll see to it that you get it. I'll send an email to you all tomorrow so that you have it.
Thank you. So,
That's all right. Yeah. Next item on the reports is the zoning and code enforcement officer, and sewer enforcement officer reports. They're in your pack. Any comments or questions about those?
May I?
Sure.
I received an email from Keith Hunnings, our zoning officer, and he asked me to bring up to the board, and I think this is probably the appropriate time to do it. He is asking that the board authorize himself, he would like Paul, myself, and one or two other board members, along with the other staff, Jeff Shue and so forth, to take a second look at Article 13, which is the critical environmental area in the zoning ordinance, and also take a look at Article 7 regarding the rural residential receiving district. Not looking at anything significant, but there's one or two sections that need to be clarified. And particularly with Article 7, one of the things that we discovered because someone asked questions that's looking to purchase or did purchase a piece of property is typically in our zoning ordinance it allows lot sizes not to exceed or a minimum of. In that particular zone, so that gives you a little flexibility. In that particular zone, it tells you your lots must be 50,000 square feet, period.
No bigger than smaller.
Nothing bigger, nothing smaller. So that's one section particularly we want to look at to give some flexibility, because particularly if you're putting in 8, 10 lots, it's kind of tough to design them that they're exactly 50,000 square feet.
Also, I should announce that Keith Hines and I met with the owner of the Campbell Road property regarding the issues he had, and gave him some feedback as to what his options are and what the problems are. So that's what led to this need, or sense of need to up some of the language.
So I don't know if we need a motion, but just a consensus, everyone's okay with that.
Thank you. Sometimes, until you actually apply a zone to properties, you can't visualize any and all the problems you might have. So it's like a test case. Okay, moving on.
before you leave the zoning report, I'm wondering if at some point we could revisit, and certainly not this evening, but revisit this business with the camper policy in the area. I mean, we have more than 25 on this sheet. It seems to me that everybody is not in agreement with it, or we wouldn't have 25 citations
We
in here.
have 25 that have responded, or 25 overall?
It's at least 25 overall on this sheet. I just think maybe we need to take a look at that.
I'm going to, now if you look All those that are, there's only one that hasn't complied.
Like,
Yeah.
right, but the fact that they even came to this list is, I think, a concern and something that I've heard from other folks in the community that I think we should probably at least see if we can provide some clarification or find a better way or something.
Well, it is, you cannot keep a camper or mobile unit in front of your house. It's got to be kept either in some off-site area or behind your house,
Or the side.
or the side. So, I mean,
I think it's 25 people because we haven't gone around and put out notice.
Yeah, this is the first time,
Maybe we should.
we had it in the newsletter, in July. And then it was middle of August, I believe, when the first inspections took place, which resulted in these 25, 29 letters. And all have complied, as I said, with the exception of one. And that's because that one took us a little while to track down the owner of a boat and a trailer down at the intersection of Mount Airy and Covington. The little triangular grass plot that actually is the township's, it was parked in the middle of that, so we didn't know who the owner was. So it took us a little while to track that one down.
but what's your assessment after going through all this? You think people are going to conform, those people in particular?
They've all conformed.
But you think in the future they're going to still, I imagine they will, or not?
I would say out of those 25, we probably had, two or three that were highly upset about it. We had a couple others that we had calls and we explained, what was behind it, and they were like, okay, and then others, they just disappeared and we never heard from anyone.
What's the sense of the board in regard to Ann's thought, suggestion?
I've heard lots of grumbling. I was very taken aback by a few folks who have confronted me about this issue. Yes.
Well, you're not hearing from the people that are happy that they're not looking
That's
at boats and campers in front of
Yeah,
us.
but you even have Dean Pearson on here for having a motorcycle. I mean, so it doesn't just apply to large things. So I'm not sure how consistent we are. I mean, I know that there's some other things sitting around that.
Motorcycle?
No,
Motorcycle's a vehicle.
Yeah, that's not accurate. No. I know it's on there. We had an intern that typed that up, so.
I don't know. Just a thought.
I don't think they have an issue there at all. I just think if people weren't aware of it, they was parking over there.
And we keep us informed from month to month, year to year. I don't mean to be facetious, but you made us aware that there are some people that are very unhappy. That's how this plays out over another year.
Yeah, I think there are a number of people who are unhappy that they can't keep their campers and that kind of stuff at their home anymore.
Well, they can as long as it's in their side yard.
I don't know all the specs of everybody's property.
They can get rid of their swimming pool and they put the dirt back, anyways. Anyway, I don't suggest that we drop this entirely, but let's think about it some more, okay?
Can you put a reminder in the newsletter, maybe every quarter or something,
Especially in the spring and the fall,
when the,
when they're bringing them out of storage and
yeah,
getting rid of.
I think that's good, that way new people in town are familiar with the ordinance.
We're gonna move on.
Because I think it was a little culture shock for people,
Yeah.
because nothing's been said for a while.
It's tough to move something that's been there for a long time. Okay, Bill?
Yep.
Next item under the reports is maintenance. And that's our road crew, our park crew. And I noticed for the last 2 months they haven't done any work in the parks. At least not in the report.
Yeah, there hasn't, I think there was something, well, you were getting a report from me, so that's why you weren't seeing it on here. Remember, I was doing that itemized report?
Well, their report in here doesn't list parks or anything they've done.
Right, because if you remember, I was putting it under my report.
Okay.
Remember, I had the detail for each part?
Some lady, a former member of the board, said I was obsessed with parks. And, it's great to be obsessed sometimes. I mean, you like to hire someone that's obsessed with their job, they work, 20 hours a day and all that. I'm gonna get over it. I'm getting professional help in another 3 or 4 weeks, actually. Anyway, moving on. Any questions about maintenance, engineer's report, or planning commission minutes? Okay, moving on. Supervisor comments.
I think, Paul, maybe this should be new business, but we did have a horrendous snowfall. And I think we shouldn't ignore the guys that were out in the trenches for 16 hours or so of the road and got rid of most of that. So whether it's here or new business, it seems like maybe a little notice from the board expressing our thanks and recognition of what they did.
We have to make a motion. Todd, you want to, on behalf of the whole board, tell them how much, as always, we appreciate their good effort. Anybody else want to have to? Everyone knows what you. Thank you, Art.
One other question. Ben, did you want to address the Buy Fresh, Buy Local program at all?
Yes, correct. I guess we're gonna put a flyer in that Buy Fresh, Buy Local. It's a $50 check to put our name into that Buy Fresh, Buy Local.
And give me a little more information if you have it. I mean, I don't know, is that something that the township has paid in the past, or? I don't know
They
exactly
have.
what that's
Yes.
all about.
Sue always handed us an invoice for that.
Is that something that we would be interested in? I mean, if we're going to support the farmer's market, then it seems to me it's not unrealistic if it's $50 to spend that amount on advertising for it, to make it successful.
That's covered in our budget for.
Right, just give us, because we paid it in the past, so we handed that to us, so.
All right.
Yeah, I think we do have money in the budget for next year, but we don't want to go crazy on these signs. The committee talked about social media. We want to focus more on the social media aspect of it than putting little square signs in the township. So that's something Todd and I would discuss. I think we have a meeting on Monday to discuss a culvert. So that's something I'm going to bring up with Todd, is how can we work together? Because I think Shrewsbury Township has a Facebook page. Is that correct?
We're working on that, but we have a website.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a website.
Yeah, so that's details that, we'll have to figure out, but that's where we want to spend most of our budget is, or the $50 for that Buy Fresh, Buy Local, and also not go crazy on signs this year. Try to keep that money in the budget.
Thanks, Ben.
The Buy Fresh, Buy Local people told me that they plan to distribute 20,000 of those booklets this year in your county. So
Sounds like $50 well spent.
Yeah. And I am a member of that Buy Fresh, Buy Local. I am a Penn State grad too, so I do work with the Penn State Extension and also the University of Maryland Extension. So there's a lot of networking there that can happen.
So we saying it's okay to do that?
Do we need a motion?
No, I don't think so. This is
Okay,
just,
okay.
he just gets the information to me, so.
Anything else, Ben? Okay, we'll move on.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Supervisors, this is the supervisor's comments. Sorry, you have anything?
That was it?
What was it?
Whether or not we wanted to do that advertising.
You can still say something else, but no, you're okay.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
I want to say, well, first I know that Jeff was concerned about spraying with half Roundup and half water on our trees, on our tree stumps. And I just double checked it. And that's what we're advocating as part of the park maintenance, where you have to take a tree out because it's not the proper tree or it's dying or whatever else. We use half Roundup and half water, mix it together in a little pail. Then we get a broomstick like, and we take a sponge on it, and we get that into the pail. And then we go around the canopy or outside layer of the trunk. Now, and Jeff thought we should maybe consider spike. And I also have a book here called Herbicides and Forest Vegetation Management from Penn State. Just need to wrap this up by saying that spike is a very toxic chemical. It's, it lists the environmental hazards. I'll just do that, Jeff, if you want to take a look at it. Okay,
I'm aware of what Spike is.
no, I mean,
I'm aware of what it is, thank you.
okay, well, just make sure you are.
I'm aware of what it is. I have my license.
We have to have a license for that.
I know, and I have it.
But I'm saying that proves I'll talk to you today, Jim. We respectfully disagree.
I know that, and we will always disagree on certain items. Thank you, Paul.
That's just one of a hundred, I guess, okay. Anyway. Moving on.
I mean, would you like me to point everything out to you that I disagree with you on?
I ain't got all night now, I don't have.
Me neither, so thank you for reminding me. We don't have all night.
Anyway,
Let's keep the meeting moving, Paul.
I'm sorry. Under old, no other comments? Jeff, I guess that was your comment. Under old business, the emergency management coordinator, you have information in your packet about that.
Mr. Walters is here.
Come on up. Now, we're gonna.
Want me to state my name and address for your record?
When you get ready to speak. The emergency management coordinator appointment, so you want to just introduce yourself and tell us why you're the best man for the job and whatever else you have to say.
Okay. My name is Stanton Walters, Stanton Walters. I live at 26 Essex Circle Drive in Shrewsbury Borough, and I'm currently the emergency management coordinator there. I guess it's been about a month now. Todd Ziegler, your township manager, contacted me about possibly serving as your coordinator because your coordinator had resigned, the previous gentleman. And I did not immediately say yes or no. I took several weeks and I talked to Todd on and off. I also talked to the previous coordinator and I did not want to take the invitation lightly or jump in without being fully prepared. So I've talked to several other people that would be willing to serve along with me. And at the conclusion of that 2-week period, I got back to Todd and said, I'd be happy to do it, kind of along with here are several other people I'd like to bring into the emergency management agency along with me if you proceeded with my appointment. As far as being the best person for the job, I don't really think that I'm competing with anybody per se, and I would say this, that I think that a resident of the township would probably still be your best person if somebody were willing to do it. But in the absence of that, I'm willing and happy to serve in that capacity. And my plan would be that I would be grooming somebody from the township to take that role over. That'd be my objective, okay? So.
You feel there's an advantage in having just somebody serve both the township and the borough? Is there something there that would bring people together? And sometimes we have a problem that covers both the borough and the township since we're so interlocked.
Well, so under Title 35, every municipality is required to have an emergency management coordinator and provide that functionality for the public good and public safety of your municipality. And until such time that a formal intergovernmental agreement would exist between municipalities, they each must maintain their own functionality in that way. So I know that there has been some talk mentioned in the last month about the possibility of you as a board of supervisors approaching the Shrewsbury Borough Council with that idea that maybe you could combine. So I've contacted a gentleman who is the emergency management coordinator from an area where they have done this already, over on the eastern side of the county. I believe it's Windsor and Pelham Township. and all the boroughs inside those two townships have entered into an agreement, which basically is a way that they all agree to share the cost of maintaining that functionality with a single coordinator and single staff to serve that area. And I don't have it yet, but they are willing to share that agreement that both of the municipalities could potentially look at along with your solicitors and your managers to help you make that decision. But until that happens, we will have to maintain separate and independent staff and operations centers to be used basically where the incident is occurring, depending on which one, would depend on which one. So I can be the coordinator, but I have to maintain a separation between when I'm working with the borough and when I'm working with the township, until there would be a unification agreement.
So you need to have a presence established here in the township, is that what you're saying?
And we have that. You have an emergency operations center right here in the building.
All right, so for the time being, we're ready to go forward.
Yes, we are.
Approve Stan's impressive and lengthy resume. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for sure.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, if I may, I'd like to introduce a couple other gentlemen, and I'd like, if you're willing and able to do that tonight, or if you want to discuss it, to have them be staff in the EMA. Brian Bradford and Doug Claiborne. Both of these gentlemen, I include a little bit of biographical information along with my information. And like I said, I didn't want to do this alone. That's why I hesitated in saying yes right away until I had some other able bodies. And both of these gentlemen, number one, are willing volunteers. That's the biggest thing. But they both have backgrounds that are very suitable to assisting in emergency management.
Well, with your recommendation, I think we can go forward.
Okay.
Is that the thought of the board?
Sure.
Sure. We need a motion to formalize this?
I would.
Yeah. Okay. Look for a motion to approve Stan as our emergency management coordinator and along with his assistants for the coming year.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thanks for your help.
We have a waiver request for pumping system, septic tank. Remember, last month we had, we had an issue with the one waiver request. We weren't sure whether to grant it or not. Now you have a memo in your pack, just wanted to clarify the situation. And,
Yeah, I would just recommend, of course, we've had all this snow, so Keith couldn't go out and do an inspection. If you recall, we had a similar situation down Rockville Road. We had Keith go out and actually do an inspection of the tank, and he made a determination whether it needed to be pumped or not. We didn't have anything in the records that it's been pumped.
so we'll look forward to hearing back from him
Yes.
on this matter. And would you want to let Dan know, or would you want to
Yeah, I'll let him
let him know? Next item is the Exelon Habitat Improvement Program. We're on our way to getting a grant from Exelon, which is a company that administers or owns some of the hydraulic power producing plants on the Susquehanna River. And so you want to give us one more place on that?
Yeah, the Habitat Improvement Program is a pretty tight scope of work. It's to improve habitat, to help assist with clarifying the water, make it cleaner and so forth. These are some areas that we identified. I think we have a total of 6. This area that we applied for a grant for is on the east side of 83 of Exit 4. Here's Cracker Barrel, here's Tom's. And this area mainly would be for planting native plants and then going in and trying to get rid of many of the invasive plants as we can. Our total, we received an email that indicates that our grant has been approved in the amount of $19,284. I shouldn't say approved, it's been selected for consideration of approval.
Yeah.
But there's a process that we need to go through. According to this, we'll get a contractual agreement which has to be signed and returned by February 25th. So that's before our next meeting. So I would ask that the board would authorize the appropriate officials to sign that contract when that does arrive.
What's the issue about matching equipment materials?
That's not contingent upon receiving the grant, but I did reply. The question was whether or not the township was going to have any matching funds or in-kind services. The idea was that we're going to have probably 2 of our public works folks work alongside as they're doing the plantings and so forth, really as an educational tool. And I estimated it 4 days, so it's roughly $3,000 match.
Tyler, you and I talked about that, but just to clear again,
Sure.
is that all township property in that particular one?
No, this is actually all private property.
It's all private.
And we did get a letter of support from the property owner to do the work.
How about
Yeah.
Hopewell Township?
We have not approached them.
We have to at some point.
Yeah, at some point, particularly when we get down in this area here. But we don't really need to at this point. We'll make them aware of what we're doing, but all we're doing is planting plants. We're not changing the contours.
That probably proven half that property is in Hopewell, the stream is on.
Correct. So in other words, right down through here. So everything north is Hopewell Township, and to the south is Shrewsbury
There's
Township.
no money of our own, this is all grant money.
That is correct.
And in-kind services.
Yes.
Except for the 3,000.
Yeah, it's in kind.
In-kind.
It's not cash.
Oh, okay.
And if our men are working someplace else and we wouldn't cost us anything. Okay,
And then you just hope the township help too.
be nice. Hey, are we going to, we have to contact Land Studies over in Lancaster that is overseeing this work.
Mm-hmm.
Make them aware that we're offering in-kind services so we can work together with them.
Yeah, I copied them on the email.
Great, thank you.
So we should probably have action on that by the board to authorize us to sign the contract when it arrives.
I'll make the motion that we authorize approval of the contract and also the in-kind services in Shrewsbury Township.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you have in front of you the maintenance department fee schedule, which has changed somewhat from last year, or from 2010. You need us to make a motion to approve this?
Yeah, just to make a motion,
Okay.
to replace attachment 6.
No, this is for, if we're helping Hopewell Township, I mean, what's the purpose of this?
Correct, if we're helping another municipality.
One question, we don't have a grader anymore, do we? Didn't we sell that?
We did. Yeah, we'll delete that, yes.
How did we come to the new number stuff?
Well, the labor rates are based on current pay scales, and we put together a spreadsheet that shows all the benefits from insurances to Medicare, Social Security match, and so forth. So that's the hourly rate with all benefits.
It's been 6 years since we got that.
And then the equipment rates, what we did is I used the FEMA, the federal government, has a rate schedule for all their equipment, so I use that as a guide for our equipment as well.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda. We have a motion on that?
We need one, but we don't.
I'll make a motion to approve the updated maintenance department fee schedule.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now, the next item is park maintenance, pruning and mulching services. Do we have any estimates for that, Todd?
We do, that should, I did email it, but I also give you a copy here.
It's probably attached, okay. Well, I had,
I emailed it today, but
I didn't get it,
I
okay.
think I have copies here for you as well.
The best.
Is your email working yet?
At 6:30 tonight, I got a tweet, interestingly enough, it notes that you changed the password 10 days ago, but it doesn't let you use that password, but it lets me use it previously. I don't understand. But yes, thank you, it did.
Todd, did Gilmar with no bid, I mean, did they?
They were out, and they came out late in the process. I contacted them after the last meeting. They were late in the process of coming out to look at it. And in fact, I believe it was Thursday before the snowstorm. So I know he got busy with the snowstorm, and I also don't think he had the opportunity. I think he wanted to come back and look at things closer. And he did not get the opportunity to do that before the snow fell.
Do we want to consider an extension on this, if Gilmar can give us a bid? What's your thoughts on that, Todd?
I mean, we can. The only thing I'd be concerned about is I know we talked about getting it all done before the growing season began. And that would put us out into, I guess it could possibly still be done in March, but you know, these guys start cooking things up, so I don't know. Albany, I think, was looking, look here.
I didn't see a time frame in his.
I know he's aware that we were looking at March. I don't think he does have that on there. Bartlett does.
Well, can we talk a little bit about not only this, but the improvement, which is going to be over what had been budgeted too. So I kind of would like to view both of these together, and that we're spending a significant amount of money. If we move forward with the improvements project, that's 20,000 over. If we add this, and I'm wondering, is this something that could be delayed?
Well, we do have 5,000 of this would come out of the one line item, which we've never got close to spending. Let me check here.
I don't know what we were expecting this to come in. I think we just...
And keep in mind, we did not budget this. It wasn't discussed at that
That's
time.
correct, yeah.
You mentioned at the entrance, what are you trying to do there?
Well, what I'm looking at here is we also have this to look at next, right? This is the bids that came in.
Yeah,
So this is the one that's...
that has to do with the playground.
Right, it's going to run us 20,000 over this budget, that's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
So we should just be aware of the whole number that we're spending.
I'm surprised at these prices. Meter prices of 15,000 from one contractor, 22 from another.
22 is from Bartlett.
But you have an arborist involved.
Well, but
Just that word.
scope of work.
16 grand.
I think I give themselves a lot of wiggle room here.
I was just looking, this number is actually really 340. We have 340,000 budgeted for parks that'll come out of the general fund. 240 of that is what we budgeted for the improvements project. The 20,000, that's the overage for the lowest bid that came in for the improvements. My thoughts are that we should use recreation funds, not general funds. Because keep in mind, we'll have a fund balance at the end of 2016 right around $54,000. And again, rec fees, rec fund can only be used for the park. So I mean, you know, we can keep it and accumulate it, but eventually it has to go to the park. So I would recommend that overage we spend out of the rec fund. And in doing that, you know, we have another 100,000, which is budgeted for the parking lot, the curbing in the parking lot, and also the gravel path. So I think we would still stay well within budget. I don't think we would exceed that if we move forward with that lowest bid.
If we move forward with that, with the pruning and all that come out of the recreation?
No, that would come out of what we had budgeted already in the general fund.
Okay.
And that's at 340. It's 335 plus the 5,000 for park supplies,
Okay.
which is, I'm coming up with that 340.
I'm a little concerned about this situation. I mean, before we had our own maintenance people do it, and they would like mulch every tree. Might take 2 or 3 people a week, and they knew where to go and what to do. And what we're trying to do here is get away from our maintenance people and go on to somebody else.
I don't know. I guess what I was thinking, yeah, I don't know that we were looking for our maintenance guys to get away from it totally, but I was with the understanding a lot of the trees need a lot of pruning and the shrubbery and so forth. And our guys, they'll admit it, they don't have the expertise in that field.
Oh, what needs pruned? I mean, to be honest with you, the tree we planted the last 8 or 9 years, they made a little bit of touch-up where you have a broken branch or branches crossing, but generally, you're talking about larger trees?
No, mostly the, well, some of them are as high as 4 or 5 feet.
I don't, some people prune very harshly, and they, you know, I mean, it's not good. I mean, and also they're calling for mulch that is black dye mulch, you know, you don't put dye on mulch. I mean, it's not a good practice. Maybe it looks pretty or something, but costs more, and it's a pollutant. We have those very good DVDs which explain in great detail how to prune and how to do everything else. Anyway.
I mean, the only reason I got the proposals is that it was discussed and we talked about doing that.
I'm not faulting you for getting proposals, I'm talking about the proposals themselves. And before I turn to even professionals, quote unquote, loose in our parks, I want to see what their mentality is about pruning. Like topping trees. Some of these people, they want to top everything, and that's an immoral sin. You don't top trees. Thin out the branches, whatever, you don't top. I mean, so I'm not sure what we're getting here. It would take our crew, 2 or 3 people a week, to mulch all the trees, and all the plants in our parks, I estimate.
But one of the reasons we looked at this was because we thought it would be difficult to get that effort done timely. That's what I recall. So we were hoping this was an alternative.
That's just for the mulching.
The other thing is, it says, instead of spraying around these trees, which we've always done, they want to cut and remove these whatever's growing under these trees. And that's very time consuming. And then they'll come back. You just cut them.
Was that Bartlett? I think that was Bartlett.
I'm not sure.
I think that was Bartlett, which was the higher. That's
Right, but if you spray around, if we spray around trees all over the years, and it kills all the vegetation, and then you put your mulch down. If we just cut it and put mulch down, the vegetation will come back up through the mulch. I'm not faulting you at all, I'm just telling you what I think about the proposal. We're not better off having our own people do all this work. And it's, like I said, maybe a week to do the mulching, whatever, do that all one time, one day, over 3 weeks. And the spraying, one person can do all the spraying in 2 days. Kill all the vegetation if we mulch it. Anyway. We planted almost 2,000 trees in our parks. And the price was about $1 a tree because they were bare seedlings. You know, most people want to bring in trees in containers and they cost 15 times more than that, 20 times more than that. So our approach, I have to take a look at our approach.
So do you want to defer this until we have a little more time to?
I'm not ready to approve it. If I vote on it, it's going to be no. That's just me. All right, well, what's the sense of the board?
Well, we got these pretty late today, so I think it's reasonable. I know time is an issue as well, but I think it would be helpful to have a little more time to consider
And
review.
there's time too, we don't have to, do we talk, we don't have to approve this tonight?
No.
We'll get back to it next month. Leaf composting, I want to thank Todd for putting in here. Manor Township and Manhattan Township and other townships, they have a composting program. And Manhattan Township made $50,000 last year. They take in leaves and grass, compost it, and they sell it as a compost to the community.
It says generated revenue, is that profit, or is that just?
No, he told me they do not make any money. This township
It's
doesn't make
revenue.
money, yeah.
Cost that were
Yeah.
associated with that?
But they're in a situation because of their population, they're mandated to have leaf collection.
We had an issue last year with people dumping leaves on township property or park property.
Well, this,
No, remember we had an issue with, you had to send
no,
out.
we have people use Miller Park dumpsters, they're,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Dump everything you don't want.
Well, what do you want to do with this?
It just seems like that would just add more work on the crew that we're having trouble getting in to do the work in the parks now if we try to do this too. I think the requirement, this was talked about at the PSAT training I went to Saturday, and it's like townships that are 5,000 people, but over 500 per square mile. So from a standpoint of having to do it. And doesn't that get into street sweeping and all that too, if you start doing?
Not
If you're mandated, yeah.
Okay.
You're mandated, yeah, you're mandated.
But you know, I know, trying to think what township it is over in Lancaster County. I know they've had issues where if you don't turn the compost as often as you need to, you can have fires that start. And then, you know, again, keep in mind, this township is 19,000 is the population, or 50 square miles, but, you know, they have a 4.5 acre site of asphalt. So then they have to be permitted by DEP. They have to deal with all their stormwater runoff. And so it can get costly.
That's how it's done. I don't see a lot of enthusiasm for this.
Do you have a thought about an inexpensive way to?
Well, like, they allow people to bring in, say, leaves and grass Saturday morning or half a day on Wednesday morning or something, and then they would just come in and they would dump it. And we would turn it every so often, and then they can come back when it's compost, and we'd sell it to them or whatever else. It can be done very simply, but it's a resource that we're losing. They're dumping it, you know, in their backyard sometimes. I mean, I just think that we need to consider it. We have the area for it, both at Miller Park and at the Township maintenance facility. We have lots of room for it. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm tired of beating a dead horse. I'll tell you something, it's interesting. There's out in Colorado, Boulder is one example, and Louisville is another example. They have a lot of good programs, including this program. And their homes would sell here for $300,000. They sell for $600,000 out there. I listened to a discussion on the radio as to why the difference. And it's because they have a tremendous park system, they've got trails, they've got all kinds of nice amenities they're building over the years. And people are dying to get into those communities. Their shopping centers are beautifully landscaped. I mean, you think you're going into a park almost. You know, why are we so far behind? I
They have the income to support it though too, Paul.
Yeah, but the income, they probably started out as a pretty modest town or city or whatever. But they added these amenities, and I think we can do better here. You know, when people from England start coming over here because they want to see Shrewsbury Township, then we've reached some sort of level. We have to go over there because it's pretty over there. It's not so pretty here all the time. I think our expectation level is fairly low. I think, I visited the city of York over in England. I compare it with our city here. And my God, you think that we were the old country, they were the new country. The city over there is magnificent. It's beautiful. It's packed with people and stores and all kinds of interesting things. And then just outside the city of York over there, it's all farmland. There's no sprawl or house here, house there. It's just wonderful. Anyway, some people would say, well, why don't I see you go over there? Well, why don't you get out of here and go over there, right? That's not the solution. Okay.
We should put that as part of the other business that we were talking about, the parks, that's something to consider for you.
Yeah, well, we're not getting this done. Okay, well, what's next here?
Did you want to address under old business, the manager's ordinance?
Yeah, we do. Okay, that's where we are. Okay, well,
I'm sorry, agreement, not ordinance.
okay, we can just leave it as is, or we could change the severance. I think those are, it's either or situation. You can make other changes to it too, of course, but those are the issues we discussed before. And our solicitors tell us that we don't have to be consistent with the ordinance, so we're free to do as we please.
Well, didn't we approve it as long as that the agreement could trump the ordinance? We approved it on that basis, so isn't it approved? I think we already did.
That's my understanding of what you put into your minutes. I wasn't here last week.
In other words, when we voted, we approved it on the basis that the agreement could be a different severance pay than the ordinance. So now that we know that could be, it seems to me it's already approved.
The conditions have been met, so the contract is valid. Okay. 64-gallon recycled cart program. I believe that's next.
Talk about that a little bit. Penn Waste, as you know, is our refuse collector. They're proposing to the board that they authorize Penn Waste to issue 64-gallon recycling toters. They have wheels, so they're easy to take to the curb. They cite as their benefits that it increases the average home recycling from 10 to 12 pounds per week, and Shrewsbury Township right now is around 8 to 9 pounds. Of course, it would increase your capacity because our current ones are 32 gallons. Of course, the more that the township recycles, the higher our recycling grants are. Of course, they mentioned about the wheels, and there's a lid to help keep it dry, which is a benefit to them as well, and it allows them to actually process more of the recyclables. Because if they get wet newspaper and cardboard, in their new facility, they do have these super dryers that can dry it, but it takes longer. Penn Waste would provide education piece, and I did attach that to you with your information, a sample packet from Silver Spring Township. So they have a lot of recycling information that will be distributed with the cart. It is no cost to the township or to the residents. They would be looking at doing it sometime this month or early March. They would do all the distribution. The old bins could continue to be used for excess recycling. And this is strictly a voluntary program from Penn Waste. So if they were to deliver, if you happen to catch them coming up your driveway and you do not want that bin, you simply tell them you don't want one and they'll take it back to the truck. Or if they're distributed, we get phone calls that say, hey, this is too big, I don't have anywhere to put it. You know, I think it's going to be too heavy or whatever, and someone doesn't want it, we'll notify Penn Waste and they will come back and take it. It's not forced upon any residents.
Well, it seems like it's a win-win situation. Some people have a hard time lifting those blue recycling bins.
Right.
Even when they're empty, they're pretty heavy. This may be an advantage for those people.
You can opt out. So
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So you want, I'll make a motion that we accept this generous offer.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item.
Next item, I think this is the third year that we've done this.
I make a motion that we approve the Shrewsbury Christian Academy fun run. They're gonna go up the trail and then over Shrewsbury Road.
Yeah.
Second?
Vote aye. Aye.
Aye.
It says that they're gonna have fun. That's all I think about is fun today. It's overdone. Okay, next item. EDU purchase request. Phil was involved with this.
Yeah, I did have a request. Phil is here, and I believe the property owners are here as well. Is it Whitesell?
Yes, sir.
Okay. They are requesting the purchase of 4 EDUs. As you can see there, this is off of Tawna Road. It actually, it's this parcel here where Phil's actually developing on the corner of Mount Airy and Tawna. I believe this property is vacant currently, correct?
Right, yeah.
So they live back here, and here's just a rough sketch of what they're proposing to subdivide. It's one, and it would be 4 additional lots.
Oh, so it's actually 5 lots.
Yeah, I'm saying it's one with the existing house and 4 additional, yeah. So it'd be a total of 5.
What's the zoning? Urban residential?
You know what, do you know what
Residential.
Residential, okay.
It's basically, if I can speak,
Sure, fine.
Phil Robinson, 18147 Amanda Lane. You know, it's an infill area. The original subdivision was done back in '88, and it was just a residual piece that was left from that subdivision. Whitesells bought the property with the intention of someday being able to subdivide as their children grew up and moved on, and that's where they are now today. It's more property than they want to mow and maintain, and longer driveway than they want to plow on snowstorms like this. They do want to stay on the property, but they want to subdivide the additional lots. They came to us because we were working on our property to the east of them. They asked me if I thought it was possible. I told them that I could go through the process and look at it. We did a small study on the property to determine whether it would work physically, and it looks like it will meet the requirements of the ordinance. It is the residential zone. There's actually a sewer manhole on the property, which is really pretty unusual. I didn't print it for everybody, but I did make a copy of the existing sewer system, the borough's sewer system over there, and they fall right in the middle of basically all the sewer system out there. In fact, that manhole is on their property. And when I had Brian from the Public Works out there, he didn't even realize the manhole was there, so we found a manhole that they weren't aware of. So before we go too far through the process, we are on staff review for this coming month.
But before you go too far, we want to make sure that there's sewer available, or else we can't move forward from there.
What's the acreage here?
3.6.
2.6, yeah.
3.6. It's totally surrounded by southern farms to the south, and the subdivision was done in the 80s. It's just a residual infill, and usually that's the best place to do development is right in an infill. You're not sprawling out, you're not going out somewhere else. You're working right inside the area where there's already a lot of development, and it'd be a private road like we've done before, so there isn't going to be any additional road that the township would have to maintain if we do the project.
All right, well, we have 38 EDUs. We need to have some reserved for emergency situations. EDU is a sewage, right? 350 gallons of sewage, enough for one residential unit. Two issues here. One is, are we going to let this go forward? And if so, what are we going to sell the EDUs for? That's just a discussion here.
Yes, I agree. I think we need to make some decisions about what we want for commercial use versus what we want to sell for residential use before we even get to the issue of how much. I think, Phil, you said in your article in the paper recently that it takes 25 for a restaurant. So if we only have 38, do we want to allow it as a business, which might generate income for the community, or do we want to use some more of them for development?
We know that homes, according to the most recent study, an average priced home, every dollar they spend in taxes, it requires $1.20 something to service them. That means that's also for the school education. And whereas with farms, it's like every dollar they spend in taxes, they get 15 or 20 cents back, and the same way with industrial and commercial uses. Look at it that way, it's better using for commercial industrial. I just need some more. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Can I interject?
No.
You're not going to get anything with 30 EDUs. You're not going to, it's so minimal, that's the reason you don't have any commercial development. It's going to take a lot more than that to spur anything around here. We've been working with New Freedom and some other things. The plant itself has over 1 million gallons of capacity, which is about 4,000 EDUs. It's a political issue of who they belong to and who they don't belong to. There's history that I can go into for hours. But the minimal amount that you have here, the 38, you're not going to generate any real commercial development in Southern York County.
As far as shopping center like that, I mean, an individual building.
Yeah, and if back to your statement about $1.20 tax base for each house that's generated, again, these are on a private street, so you're not going to plow the roads. You're going to get 4 new houses, they're tax based, and you're not going to plow a street for those 4 new houses. I'm not sure exactly what you are going to do in the way of spending that $1.20, but you'll have their tax to be able to spend on getting to that farm that's 2 miles away from here.
You want to do this as soon as you can. You want to move forward.
Well, we're on the agenda for staff review, and this process, as I do, the whole process takes a long time. It doesn't happen overnight. And for us to get started, we have to know that we have sewer capacity. We've already got water capacity. We've talked to York Water. We've got a price for extending the water main there. It's in your residential zone. It's in an area that makes sense to develop. You've got existing taxpayers that own the property in the residential zone and assumed they could do something with it when they bought it. So.
Well, we had a chance to buy sewage rights before. We had an auction here, 2 auctions actually. They were selling for under $2,000. That was at one point.
They weren't ready to develop at that time.
I understand. I'm just saying, timing is everything. Let's just go ahead and hold the board. Bill, what's your sense of this? Without making any absolute strong commitment, just what's your feeling? Yes, no, maybe? You want to pass?
I think we ought to do it.
Okay. And?
I'm in the maybe camp. I'd like to get some more information.
All right.
It's 4 units, so to me, it just, why not? I mean, it's not like you're depleting everything, and you're not gonna do much else with those 4 units, so.
You're going to need 5 EDUs?
4, they have the existing land.
Oh, they have existing, they're
Yes,
connected
we need
already.
4. Yeah.
One strip.
So you need 4, you know, and it's, what I like is it's in the infill area.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not reaching out anywhere else, so why not use them there, and not have to go use them in some area where we take up maybe different kind of.
No. Hey Jeff, how do you feel?
Let them have them.
Well, just,
That's the way I feel. I mean,
okay.
we've got them, we're not doing anything with them, we got somebody here who wants to buy them. I mean,
Okay, well,
it's in a residential zone, it's not.
there's a consensus, there's a consensus there, Jeff, we sell them. The big question is at what price?
We have a price already established. We established the price last year.
5,000 or something.
The last ones that sold February, actually a year ago, $5,953.
We understand that's the price.
Well, it's funny, we got offers, you know, people want to buy them for $8,000 recently.
But they didn't.
And,
My clients are billionaires. The last one was, literally.
I call for a motion that the township will sell 4 EDUs for this property. That's just the first motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And this is by what date are we looking to close the sale on?
We're planning on starting, we've already submitted the plan for your staff to start reviewing, so it's as quickly as we can approve it.
Okay.
You know, we have to go through that process, you know, what it takes to get approved, but we made a commitment to do it. We'll
I just don't want to leave an unlimited time frame on it.
We don't have a PennDOT permit, the only way is an ES permit, and some other stuff, but I still think, we better keep it to the safe side and say
Years or days, and then
a year, you know, at the very most. Something's gonna take that long, we're having to do it a lot faster than that.
I mean, a typical plan, if you have a good engineer, is, you know, it should be through the system within 4 months.
Yeah.
It really should. 3 months is, especially for one this size.
There's no way you can do it in 3 months. We have to get the survey done, submit a plan to you. We're going to staff this coming on.
Because you're really coming for the consultation.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't have a formal plan. So,
Right.
yeah, so it'll be longer, but.
All right, now, we're voting on whether to sell them or not first. Bill, you say, okay,
Well, I'd like to know a time limit. I don't want this to be a 4-year commitment on our
okay,
part.
let's do it all at once.
That's what I'm trying to get
Why
clear.
don't we just say by the end of this year?
Okay, so that's, and then at what price? Just as we have a price.
The price that was established last year by the
Todd
It
has
was
it.
$5,953.
Well, that needs to be established, and they can be changed. You set a price once of under $2,000. Okay.
That's what we had at one time. The later board changed that price, and that's the price I'm stating.
You're raising your voice.
It just seems like you're not listening to me, so I just don't let you in here.
You say so.
Excuse me.
Okay, so, and what's your position as far as selling them, we go with our present price?
I have no idea how you all came to that price, and I've heard numbers that are all over the map, which is why I said I'm in a maybe camp, because I think this is all clear as mud.
If I can interject here,
You can.
there's a motion on the floor to simply just whether or not we're going to sell them. So I think you need to follow
Okay,
through on that.
okay.
And then, I think the second motion, you're looking at price, correct?
Bill, and timing, Bill votes yes, and don't feel pressure.
For selling?
For selling, period.
4 of the
Yes.
EDUs.
I think no right now.
All right, I'm gonna vote yes.
Aye.
the end of the year. And all the conditions that go with the sale of EDUs, like if they're not, they gotta be used on this site within a certain period of time, if they're not, they're gonna be returned to the township. That's our standard language.
If we're gonna buy them and assign them to this lot, what do we have to do?
Well, they gotta be assigned to this lot. And
Okay, that's fine.
If they're used anyplace else, you have to go back and get approval for that.
No problem, that's okay, we agree to that, sure.
Within the year.
Yeah, well, within a year.
No problem. Even if we don't have the plan done, we'll come in and pay for the EDUs and it's done.
Okay, now, price. $5,900 plus a month cents.
$59.53 was the last time a year ago.
And that was based on what you paid for the EDUs and an escalator of insulation,
I think we used a 10-year T-bill.
I remember that. All right, thank you for your, all right, Bill, what's the price?
I make a motion that we use the 59.54 price that we arrived at
I'll
last year.
second that.
Yeah. How are you gonna vote?
I forgot.
Okay,
Aye.
you got 3 ayes.
Thank you.
Let the record show that I paused and I'm sure.
Here's the video of the online.
We still don't know how you feel, right?
Oh, I agreed to that price under protest. I didn't like it last year when we arrived at it. But we arrived at it.
Well, anyway, we voted, right? I called for the vote.
We did.
Okay,
There were 3 aye votes.
3 ayes. I now recall that.
Yeah, we're done.
Were there
I know, it doesn't
2
matter.
nays or?
I'm gonna vote no. We have to vote.
I said no. You're the only one who didn't vote, sir.
You're so soft-spoken.
I took the unpopular stance.
No, that's okay.
It's a good side.
Okay, cable line relocation, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's just, that it's our lines that control the traffic signals, and they're running, Comcast is running cable down these 2 poles to serve Case and K. So they just need to reposition all the lines, and it's not just ours.
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Vote aye.
That was all
Aye.
question. Is there a reason why we can't put these underground, other than cost? Or is that the wording pattern?
It's a good question.
Cost. Yeah.
That's my question, is cost really the reason why we wouldn't even think about putting those underground? And not dealing with moving poles and all that?
Well, they're not moving poles, they're just relocating the position, the height of the lines that are on the poles.
Your thinking is good, though. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we allow these lights to be, the cables to be relocated.
Oh, we already voted. We're done. Yeah.
I did that at 9
You were thinking
o'clock.
ahead too far.
I'm in bed at 9 o'clock.
You just don't want to leave.
We did that.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Right, agricultural land preservation, I suggest we write a letter to all those people that still did development rights on behalf of the board and thank them profusely.
Why you starting it now? You never did it before.
All right, now, write to them and tell them we were going to, but Jeff Reynolds didn't think it was a good idea.
No, Paul, you never done it before. You never did it with me or anybody else. So why? But you make me up.
Send a letter to Jeff Reynolds. I mean, because you did something before, doesn't mean we can't start. Does it make sense? All right. What's the sense of the board?
Just move on, Paul. It's the meeting over. Please.
Well, I still think we should send a letter thanking them for their form of this program. I've called for a vote, Bill.
And this was a letter to do what?
They put their forms in the ag preservation program.
In the ag preservation.
Oh. Sure, I concur with that.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yes. Not a big deal.
I vote for it.
All right, okay, then moving on. Park improvements contract award. Todd?
Yeah, if you have in your well, I did email that to you today. As you know, we extended the bid opening until Tuesday morning
Yeah,
yesterday
you sent it.
because of the snowstorm.
Yeah.
If you recall, last year we had one bid, which is over $500,000, which was Kinsley Construction.
Yeah, it didn't work.
This time, there were 8 bid packets picked up, there were 5 that were returned. Yeah, I don't have the, I can tell for the sake of the public. We had 5 bids that were received. The lowest bid, base bid, was $241,078. And I'm just going to round this off. The next bid was $252,000. Next one was $290,000. The next one was $305,000. And the highest bid was $429,000. So the lowest bidder is Kinsley Construction, which is half of what they bid last year for the same project. And with the 2 add alternates, it comes out to $249,433. And then with the playground equipment, which we purchased separately under state contract, brings this total to $319,316.
And
We had $300,000 budgeted. So you can see what consists of our budget. We had a DCNR grant for $120,000, general fund match of $120,000. We had an Act 13 Marcellus Shale grant from the county commissioners in the amount of $30,000. Rec fund match of $30,000, which makes up our $300,000. So we had an overreach of $19,316. As I emailed to the board this afternoon, we're projected to have a revenue balance of $54,000 in our rec fund. And I would recommend to the board that we take that difference of the $19,316 from the rec fund.
We're entertaining a motion to,
No, that's fine. Sure, go ahead.
we're entertaining a motion to accept or reject the lowest bid. I think the Kinseys will do a pretty high quality firm. So we entertain a motion to move forward or not move forward. Move forward would be the
Now, do we have the matching in hand?
No, it's a reimbursement program.
Okay, but there's no doubt that we'll get it.
No, we have signed contracts.
Okay.
Good question. All right. Need a motion.
Motion that we move forward with the Kinsley Construction bid of $249,433.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Do you want to, just for the record, for the auditors, make a motion that the amount over the budget will be used from the rec fund?
That's
I'll
fine.
make the motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Jeff, by the way, I didn't get a letter either when I put my phone in the program. I'm busy about it. Life goes on, okay. Recreation fees, Mr. Solomon's not here.
Of course, I have in your packet a copy of the letter from Dr. Bill Solomon, and he's expressing his concern with the $2,500 recreation fee that we charge for every new residential lot, which that fee then gets put into that recreation fund.
You want a copy of his letter?
Yeah, I will tell you, I did go back and looked as far as I could go back in our financial records to 2000. It was December of 2000. Since that time, so over actually the last 15 years, that recreation fee has generated $651,000 that was put back into the parks.
Well, do we give an opportunity to come and make a presentation next month, or we just vote now? What's the sense of the board?
And you don't have to vote on anything.
Well, we ought to respond to this letter.
Well, yeah, but,
We have to have some consensus or not consensus. Leave things where they are, or make the changes?
Well, to me, the earlier you get the money, the better, the sooner we can put it to use, and with the way things drag on, maybe having to pay this up front as an incentive to try to keep it moving and get the money back.
I do, Bill.
I agree.
Bill, Jim?
I agree.
Okay. I agree. Okay, that's what
Generate a letter.
we should respond. Todd, you want to write it?
yes.
Pleasant as you can.
And you're signing it correct.
I wasn't put on there. I voted after 4 votes and it cast in the negative, but you gotta keep the family together. All right, trash waivers. I make a motion that we accept the recommendation on all 4 of those properties.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I thought we see here deny request. You said on the memorandum sent out by Todd, it says to deny the request for 1564 Deer Creek Road.
Is that what you're referring to when you say the recommendation?
Yeah, I'm referring to your recommendation to the program.
Oh, I thought you were, okay.
No, I'm sorry, I should have made it.
You didn't make it clear.
I didn't. I'll be forever apologetic to you. All right, okay with that? We just voted on it?
Yeah, you can vote, motion in a second.
Okay, call for the vote. Aye.
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 5 ayes. Correspondence, public comment. Any correspondence?
Not other what's in the packet.
Anybody want to address this weary award? Yes.
Doug Claiborne, 12260 Rail Report. Concerning the bins, does everybody receive a bid automatically?
They do. Now, if you already know you don't want one, we'll let them know.
Yeah, I was wanting to suggest that Penn Waste contact everybody and say, hey, these are on the way. Let us know if you want one or not. Otherwise, we're just going to deliver them. Because my concern is it's going to be a waste of time and effort, then all of them showing up and possibly people not wanting them. I don't need one of those. And that might just save you them or us some trouble.
I think one reason they like to deliver them instead of sending the letter out is because reading about it and hearing about it is a little different than actually seeing it and determining whether or not it might work.
I'm just suggesting perhaps we have an opportunity to say no before we show up.
Yeah, I'll pass that along to them, but we'll also let them know that you do not want one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure.
Also, sir, we could have people call the township and we'll keep a tab as to who doesn't want them.
I was just suggesting, just so these things don't end up sitting around or end up over an embankment somewhere or improperly used otherwise.
Can they take the old one back if you don't want to keep both of them?
You can keep both of them, but you can bring the other one back here.
They said
You can actually put it out for recycling.
Just put recycle.
No, recycle to recycle.
Todd, would it be possible to put a little like postcard perforated thing in our newsletter without a great deal of expense, that if they didn't want one, they could.
Well, they want to deliver these in February, so that'll be, our next newsletter doesn't come out till April.
All right. Okay. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion?
A second. Vote aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.